Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of The Bills Guys, presented by the Buffalo Fanatics Podcasting Network, the Buffalo Fanatics, whatever you want to call it. We're all over the place. You can't turn around without seeing our mugs or hearing our voices here at the Buffalo Fanatics. So welcome in. Thank you guys for another episode. We got a lot of people trickling in here. I'm sure people are going to be hot and heavy today with the Madden ratings being released. My name is Steve Mathis. You can find me on Twitter at Judge Mathis. My co-host, as always, is Dave Tilton. You can find him on Twitter at Tilt Money. I don't know, Dave. Are you sort of as angry as I am heading into today's show? Is there a deep fire within you about these Madden ratings?
There's a fire in me about Madden, and I'm going to get to that. But first, let me just shout out some of our regulars that are in the room tonight. Cody Finney's in the house. Welcome, Cody. F the Jets. Love that guy. He's in here every week. Cameron Taylor's in the house. Dried Ocean, of course, is in the house. Our guy Andrew Miller's in the house. Elliot's in the house. Steven Campione's in the house. So we've got our heavy hitters from the comments section are in the house tonight. What's up, everybody? I hope you guys are all doing great. And yes, I am hot about the Madden ratings, but I'm hot about something else when it comes to Madden too. But I'm going to let you lead this one off because I think we're getting distracted by the bigger picture here. Davion in the house and already with a super chat. So thank you, Davion.
Really appreciate
that.
Did you say appreciate?
Yeah, I was mixing up.
I'm the one who's supposed to screw up the words, man.
It was the first time I've ever misspoke on the show. Okay,
I know. I misspeak like every other sentence. This is like the first time in a year and a half you've ever misspoken on the show.
I know. Divine Demigod's in the house. History, folks. I'm just trying to move past that. Jonathan Provus is in the house.
We got all.
I know. But anyway, so
all right. I know that everyone is hot for the Madden ratings, but can I don't know. Should I save what I think is the best news for after we get all hot and heated over the Madden ratings, or should I show the people what I think is the coolest thing I've seen all summer right now? Like, what should I do?
Well, I would say that if you only have one good thing to show, maybe you should save it because they always say, give the bad news first, then the good news. So,
all right, I'll save it. I'll save it for the end. If you guys have been on the Bills guys Twitter account at all today, you'll know exactly what it is that I'm going to bring up here in about 5-6 minutes. But let's talk about the Madden ratings. And as always, guys, do not forget, you are just as big of a part of the show as we are. So hit up the comment sections. We appreciate our super chatters. You can see I did not forget to put the scroll away. Next week, on Thursday's show, we'll actually do our next giveaway. So make sure you are there for that. So let's go, guys. Let's talk about it, the Madden ratings. And what's got me hot and heavy the most is Trey White. And let me put up this graphic real quick. Come in with the graphics today.
Okay.
Here is a statistic, and I actually brought up this statistic on my last Yin and Yang podcast with Mr. Alex Sabili when talking about Trey White as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Look at the difference between Stephon Gilmore and Trey White from a statistic standpoint. 6 turnovers forced by Stephon Gilmore last year. Trey White had 8. 20 passes defensed. Trey White had 17. A 44 passer rating against. Trey White had 45. 599 yards allowed to 626 yards allowed. You can't see it at the bottom there because of our banner, so I'll take it away real quick. 2 touchdowns scored to 0 touchdowns scored is the only real legitimate difference in statistics between Stephon Gilmore and Trey White last year. Yet, Stephon Gilmore is a 99 on Madden, which I think is well deserved for Stephon Gilmore. Don't get me wrong. The guy's been doing it for a very long time in the National Football League. But Trey White can't break 90. He gets an 89. I think the lowest rating Trey White should have is a 93. He should be a 93, a 94, and he should be one of the top 5 corners. I'm not actually sure where he ranks in terms of total corners in this game, but for him to be a 10 whole points behind Stephon Gilmore, absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I think based on my understanding, guys like Jair Alexander, Jalen Ramsey were ahead of Trey White based on some of the things I was reading today. We've got a comment in here that from N. Smith says he's going to say those are most likely fake ratings because they're exact replicas of last year to start the year. other than the guy that leaked them only did big name players other than the Bills. So we'll see, right? This isn't official from EA or anything, but if we take it for what it's worth from some of these sources, an 89 does seem pretty. I mean, I hate to say an 89 is low, but an 89 is low for Trey White when you're talking about an all pro. Like, I would dare you to find any other player in Madden that's an all pro that's rated below a 90 overall. And people are going to make the argument that, like, oh, Trey White plays mainly in zone. He doesn't shadow the main guy. But, like, that's not what this is about, right? Like, they're supposedly have all this stuff built in the Madden, right? Like zone coverage, awareness, like all this stuff, right? So as a total package, you could see why people are upset that Trey White's under a 90 and he should be higher. Now, I'm not going to get into the argument of whether he should be higher than Stephon Gilmore, but he should at least be in the 90s. And that's kind of where I see this one. And then as we kind of go through the rest of these, you're going to kind of see how that trend sort of continued with some of the other guys. And then some of the other guys that we see ominously not on the list as being above an 80 rating. So
Joshua Barrett comments should be at a minimum 97. I don't even know. Like, thank you, Joshua, for the super chat, by the way. I don't even know if I'd put Trey White that high because he had a good rookie season. He came back down a little bit to earth in year 2, had a big year 3, an explosive year 3. I don't know if I'd put him as high as a 97, like the best of all the athletes in the National Football League, all the players in the National Football League. But the dude deserves to be above a 90. Like I said, 93 would be my sweet spot for him. Who is it that made the comment about Tremaine Edmonds in here? Jimmy Johnson, 48 champion. We got, I believe, the only NASCAR fan watching our show currently. So respect there for the Jimmy Johnson.
I do have to say that Polarish is probably right about this. We would gripe about Madden ratings, but hey, that's what we do, right? That's what we do in the off season. We got something to gripe about, right? We got
here's what I'm going to say, Polarish. What month is it, and how long is it since we've seen our last live football game? How long has it been?
It's been too long. It's been too long.
But I mean, speaking of Tremaine Edmonds, I mean, this is another thing that I'm talking about. There are so many players that they're willing to give the benefit of the doubt and make, better in Madden. They're never willing to give a Buffalo Bills player the benefit of the doubt unless the player.
This happened to me all the time last year. Dried Ocean. Yeah, that happened to me all the time.
You can't throw longer than 10 yards with Josh Allen. He's ridiculously inaccurate, which is crazy because Josh Allen's like 10 to 30 yards. That's where he was most accurate on the football field last year, which is the craziest part. If anything, he should be struggling to dump it off and he should be struggling to throw it down the field. But those 15-yard curls, those 15-yard slants, like he misses like a mofo in Madden. But Tremaine Edmonds doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. Matt Milano disrespected for a couple of years now. Elliot says Kyle Williams golf ranks. I wonder if they'll put celebrities in the new PGA Tour.
It doesn't sound like it, but he should be in there, man. He hung in there, but Marty Fish was just insane that second day. I don't want to digress too much.
Can I ask you, who is Marty Fish? I don't even
he used to be a tennis player. He was he was ranked fairly high. I think he got up to like number 10 in the world. He never won any majors or anything, but he was a pretty good tennis player.
And he was invited to a celebrity golf tournament?
Well, he's a really good golfer, and he plays at Bel Air Country Club in California. So,
okay. So he hangs out with the Fresh Prince. That's what he got. He's connected.
Yeah, there you go.
But I'll tell you what, PGA Tour, when that game drops, maybe I'll just create Kyle Williams and start my PGA Tour career.
Make that your guy, yeah. Make that your guy.
The thickest man on the PGA Tour. Give John Daly a run for his money.
Yes.
I shouldn't say thickest, like the portliest. Like what is a word you would use?
The roundest? I don't know.
That's not nice. That's not nice. Because he's round, but he's powerful.
True. Stout? I don't know. Is stout a better word? I don't know. I don't know.
All right. Jonathan comments with the whole Evan Bills team was disrespected by Madden. I'll tell you what, though. And I would say that the league in general is disrespected by Madden because how many times did you guys or the people who play out there, how many times have you gone to play franchise mode? Sometimes I'll play franchise mode and gasp. I won't be the Buffalo Bills. Like I'll go and play franchise mode and I'll be another team just to switch things up. And, after the 4th week of the preseason, so I updated my rosters with sort of all the ratings of the players. And so this doesn't exactly 100% go with my story here, but at the same time, the same thing happens when you buy the game fresh. how many times do they have like I'll go and I'll play the preseason. At the end of the preseason, Zach Moss will be on the free agent wire, or like a rookie second round pick like Michael Pittman will be sitting on the free agent wire. Why? Because like I understand where Madden's coming from. They want to keep everyone artificially low, like quarterbacks. Josh Allen's a 77, but even then, Josh Allen is still one of the highest rated quarterbacks. Like the quarterbacks are artificially brought down like crazy in Madden. But how many times is there a free agent sitting on the waiver wire? Like Michael Crabtree, who's a 77, or there will be a quarterback sitting on the waiver wire that has a higher rating than Daniel Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And
kickers happens to kickers all the time on there.
You'll go into franchise mode. You'll be 2 weeks into franchise mode, and a second round pick from the Colts will be on the roster of another team, and Michael Crabtree will be catching 10 balls for some team when the dude's been out of the league for 2 years. Like, it's absolutely insane. And the fact that Madden, I understand that Madden has a monopoly sort of on the National Football League games. Like, they own it. They control it. They don't have to do anything. And people are still going to buy their games. I would like to, seeing as no matter what the fans do, nothing's going to change for Madden unless people legitimately stop buying games.
Yep.
We had Reed Ferguson on the show a couple of weeks ago, and he said that Barry Sanders Jr. comes to their practice all the time and watches them to rank men. I don't know contractually how much NFL players could get away with, but if I'm the NFL players at some point, like I'm feeling the disrespect, and what I'm doing if I'm NFL players, I'm refusing to talk to or even acknowledge the existence of a Madden Raider at my practice. If I'm an NFL team, I'm not letting that person into the practice field. I'm not like, I understand you're contractually obligated to show up there and pose for your pictures and whatnot, but I'm not smiling. I'm not doing those commercials. I'm not putting a smile on my face and doing it because they're disrespecting the players at this point. They're disrespecting the fans at this point, and they're making a crap ton of money doing it. So at this point, if they're not going to listen to the fans, I don't know contractually how much they can do and how tied behind their backs they are. But if I were the players, I'd start sticking up for the fans at this point and stop giving in to this Madden BS that they put out year after year after year.
Yeah, and here's my thing on Madden, okay? The player ratings are, to me, the least of the issues here. Like, anyone who follows me on Twitter knows I've been posting a lot recently about the hashtag Fix Madden franchise, or just the game in general. And just, there are so many issues with the game itself, the gameplay, the modes, the sort of like superficial things they try to put in the game to make it seem more appealing, like the X factors and all this crap. And it's like, you go back and, like I mentioned this before, you go back to games like NFL 2K5, the ESPN one, like these are deep, well crafted games. The gameplay is good. That's the thing that I care about the most when I'm coming in here. Like, franchise mode had things in it 10 years ago that they're now trying to reintroduce again as something new, when they had it in the game 10 years ago when they were competing with the likes of 2K5 or the 2K Sports franchise. And like you said, they have a monopoly now. There's not really a ton of incentive for them to put a lot of effort into this, other than just kind of making some glossy surface type changes. So my gripes with Madden run deep. I've been playing Madden since it was on the original PlayStation and even Super Nintendo, and it's gotten to the point where I just find it hard to play now because the game is so bad.
I mean, look at NCAA 14, the last NCAA game that came out before they abolished that game. You could choose your own conferences. You could realign conferences. You could pick all of these crazy things. Imagine if you hopped on Madden franchise mode, you could realign conferences. You could add teams like you can in NBA. Like, you can create a team and replace a team. So for those people, like, we might want to talk about the Washington R words later, because I have some opinions on what I want to name that team. Maybe we can close the show with that. Jeff King commented.
I've got a good one on Washington later. I can't.
Yeah, and we'll get to Corey Buffalo's comment in a moment too. But imagine if you could enter and you could realign the divisions, or you could pick different jerseys, and you could actually, when you changed a team, you could actually change their uniform and their helmet logo and all these things. Like, the actual assistant coaches, you could actually hire assistant coaches. Like Brian Dable would be in the game, and Leslie Frazier would be there's so many things you could do to make because I'm the franchise mode guy, to make it more realistic. It's honestly quite insane. So let's move on from the Madden a little bit. Corey Buffalo, nice little change of pace here. Did you guys see Bruce Smith on Family Feud?
Sure
Now,
did.
we try to keep this a family-friendly show, but if he can say that word on national television,
That's
I'm
not
sure
daytime
we can say
television, man.
I'm sure we can say it on this show. So pretty much the story here for anyone who hasn't seen it, I highly suggest you head over to Buffalo Fanatics, whether it's the Facebook, the Twitter, the Instagram, view the clip. It's hilarious. I can't remember exactly what the topic was. Like categories was like household items you can cook with. Is that what the topic was? Was it household items you can cook with? Does somebody in the comments section
No,
have
it
the
was no, it was something like if you were Captain Hook and you had to replace your hook with another handyman tool, what would you replace it with? And like he said, hammer first, which had already been said. But it had already been said, so he had to say something else. And I think he got kind of like, oh shoot, I can't. Like hammer's already been said, and then he just penis.
He just yelled out penis, like he just yelled penis at the top of his lungs. Now,
yeah, it was about Captain Hook. Yeah.
A couple of people. There's been some massively funny comments on Twitter about it. Someone said, this is Bruce Smith's biggest L since 1994 in reference to the Super Bowls. A couple of people have mentioned, some people have said this is the worst answer ever in Family Feud history, or the funniest answer ever in funny. No. I was watching Canadian Family Feud, and somebody. Have you ever seen this clip of the Canadian Family Feud? Has anyone ever seen this clip of Canadian Family Feud?
I probably have, yeah.
The question was like, what does Popeye eat that makes him stronger? And this lady smashes the buzzer as quickly as possible, and without hesitation comments, chicken, like because Popeye's chicken, and everyone on her team was like,
oh God.
So first of all, Bruce, I'm sorry, you're number 2. That's definitely not the funniest answer, but it's Steve Harvey. I'll tell you what, Steve Harvey, dude. We'll talk about one of the best hosts of anything in the business. I'll watch anything. I'll watch anything with Steve Harvey. New Year's, award shows. If Steve Harvey's hosting, I'm watching. So yeah. Elliot Frazier with your ass going to be on YouTube with Steve Harvey. So truly, it was pretty funny. We get Canadian Family Feud every week with Rico's just, when Rico has Kevin on, it's just, it's BF Family Feud whenever he has Kevin on his show. So funny story, good change of pace. Didn't even get to my change of pace, which is, ladies and gentlemen, the NFL needs to make some rule changes, because if you've been on the Bills Instagram or the Bills guys Twitter page today, you'll see that I'm willing to give up one of my body parts for the NFL to change this rule. And by body parts, I'm talking about my left nut, because I made this comment on Twitter today and I did it under the Bills guys logo, so people could have assumed it was
appreciate
you.
So that was my they know I would never say anything.
Dave is not willing to give up his left nut for this, but you go to college football and you see college football, and they have jerseys all the time, and these jerseys, like Oregon Ducks come to mind. Every week they have a new jersey. I don't even need a new jersey every week.
Check this.
Have you guys seen Diggs on Family Feud? He had
I forgot exactly what it was, but it was funny. I remember watching the clip.
Dried Ocean. Fill us in, and we'll talk about it here. But look at these third jerseys that somebody mocked up. It's a Buffalo Braves football jersey. This thing with Stephon Diggs. I mean, I can't whistle, but that is – thank you. That is nice. Between the black chrome helmet with the Buffalo, the Buffalo Braves B, between the orange stripe and the black stripe going across the front of that jersey. I understand the NFL makes a rule where you can't change the color of your helmet because the shell needs to stay the same every year. But, my goodness, that jersey is filthy. And then me and Zach Sheldon from Trainwreck Sports got into a conversation today, and we were talking about, bring back the Zubaz pants. Like, put a third jersey with Zubaz pants, like that'd be sick too. So you can make Zubaz pants or something. No, yeah, you can make Zubaz pants look good. You can make a pair of Zubaz football pants look good. You can modernize it. You can make it sleek. So, like, if the Buffalo Bills got to, the NFL's done better lately by letting the teams rotate jerseys, but when they're trying to recreate some of these old jerseys from like the 40s or the 50s, like you see those bumblebees that the Pittsburgh Steelers wear. The Jets have those god awful Titans uniforms. The Packers have those god awful. Like it's 2020 now. We don't all have to look like the Seattle Seahawks and blind their fans with lime green, or look like the Jacksonville Jaguars and do whatever the hell they're doing with their jerseys. Like sometimes common sense does not prevail in NFL jerseys. But I mean, you saw that Buffalo Braves jersey. You've seen some of the mock-ups for some third Bills
some
jerseys.
nice ones. Yeah, there's some nice ones.
Fans are better at creating jerseys than actual NFL teams are. Like it's insane.
Oh, for sure.
So the fact that we can't could you picture a Monday Night Football game where the Bills roll out in that Buffalo Braves jersey? Like that's just filthy. That's just ridiculous. So kudos to whoever created that. I don't know who created that. I know that Bobby put it on Instagram and Buffalo Fanatics Twitter, and he tagged the person. So go follow whoever that is. That was incredible. And I don't know who that was, but those were divine. So really a shout out goes to that. So I think that does it for most of our opening stories. So I want to hit one more story before we open it up to fan Q&As. And I want to talk about our quarterback a little bit today. I want to talk about Joshua Allen because he did a interview with Mark Sanchez. What's Mark Sanchez's podcast? His name Fourth and Long?
Fourth and Forever.
Fourth and Forever, because that's usually whatever team Mark Sanchez was on. They usually found themselves in that situation.
He did make a sly comment about that sort of in the show.
I'll tell you what, a lot of people make fun of Mark Sanchez, but I will give Mark Sanchez credit.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good broadcaster. I like watching him. I mean, it's not hard to be a decent football broadcaster nowadays. With some of the football players that they put on, like ESPN and stuff, can't even complete a sentence. So for Mark Sanchez to do that podcast and show a personality, like the back and forth between him and Josh Allen was great. Chris says great interview. Like Mark Sanchez got Josh Allen to open up in a way that no one in Buffalo media has gotten Josh Allen to open up. That no one in any interview I've seen, other than maybe the Pardon My Take guys on Barstool, open up. And he's still kind of reserved with those Barstool guys. Like even with PMT and Big Cat, he is still pretty reserved. So he opened up pretty nicely to Mark Sanchez. I believe he talked about how Mark Sanchez has eaten his nuts at least once or something like that. What was it?
Yeah.
So the pistachio. So yeah, Mark Sanchez podcast pretty good. I'm probably going to start listening to it if he's got some pretty decent guests. So give Mark Sanchez podcast a listen. But there's been a couple of stories coming out the last couple of days, and Josh Allen, and hit me up in the comments section if you agree with this. He's sort of the opposite of all the other Bills first round quarterbacks that have come in here in the past. I don't know, since Jim Kelly.
The beard is gone though.
Yeah.
And Smith, that was a little bit older, so his beard is gone. If you saw the picture with Bradley Gilbert, you would see that he's clean now. He's clean.
So the thing that I want to say is, you watch, we drafted JP Lossman. I was a JP Lossman fan from day one. It was go JP. Trent Edwards sort of rose to prominence. All right, Trent, let's go. Let's buckle down. Trent, let's go. Tyrod Taylor from his first preseason. EJ Manuel from the second he was drafted. Ryan Fitzpatrick from the first game where, he came in and threw a touchdown pass. I've always wholeheartedly from day one been behind like every single Buffalo Bills quarterback drafted. That wasn't the case with Josh Allen. Josh Allen he's had to win me over. Like he really has. And I realized like halfway through the show we don't have our banner up. But he's had to win me over. And I said from day one when we drafted him, like I'm not going to let the fact that he's got a standing Buffalo on his helmet and he's wearing the red, white, and blue. I'm not going to let that affect my judgment of Josh Allen. And so I went in and I tried to be uber critical of him from the start. But goddamn, this kid has won me over. And this story, I RT'd it from the Bills guys account. I RT'd it from my personal account. I RT'd it from my Buffalo Fanatics account. I was trying to get the story to take off and nobody was taking the bait. It was a 2-tweet thread by some guy. I don't know who it was. And it wasn't taking off. So I want to share that story for you. And it was a story shared. And you can scroll through our Twitter page. It was shared on Twitter by somebody named, I wrote it down here. It was somebody, Riots of Heaven on Twitter shared the story. I mean, Josh Allen is sort of the opposite of all the other quarterbacks. Like his teammates, he has won them over. Like his teammates worship him. He's spending all summer playing playing games with guys like Stephon Diggs. There's not a single person in that locker room, and he had some doubters in that locker room when he was drafted because of some of the comments he made pre-draft when he was like 15, 16, whatever. We understand now that it's sort of blown over. But he won guys over. He won the respect of Kyle Williams, Lorenzo Alexander. He won that locker room over. He's winning his teammates over. He's winning this community over. I mean, ESPN did that story on Supercade a couple of years ago. So like he's great in the community. He's doing all these things. Like he straight up grinds every single off season. Like you've seen his body transform over 3 years. You've seen his game transform over 3 years. And then there was that interview, like I said, with Mark Sanchez. Like, how do you not love this dude? When they're having a conversation about how they get into the flow of a game, Mark Sanchez is like, yeah, I'd like to, dump off a pass, get a nice little completion, maybe have a guy hit me, like feel like I'm in the game. What does Josh Allen say? Josh Allen literally like laughed at him. Like
he's like, I want to rip one because
Josh Allen's like, I want somebody to hit the hell out of me. Like I want someone to just knock me on my ass, and I want to chuck a deep ball. Like that's what Josh Allen said. So that's the difference between Josh Allen and Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez, two California boys, and we're going to get to that in a second when we talk about California boys. One is like, yeah, I like to dump a pass off and maybe have a guy hit me a little bit. Josh Allen's like, I want someone to try to rip my head off, and I want to chuck a deep ball. So love that. So Jimmy Johnson champion says, Lee Smith on Mike Dub said, you're not me guy when you succeed. Don't be a me guy when you falter. His teammates want to be confident to succeed and win. Yeah, I'm totally with you. And here's the wild stat that I've been wanting to get to for 2 weeks now. And other things that just keep coming up. And it's from Pro Football Focus. And you could take this either the good way or you could take this a bad way, like Pro Football Focus takes it. And that's Josh Allen's checkdowns. So Josh Allen on 461 passes last year checked down a whopping 6 times.
Yeah.
So first of all, I want your take, Dave, on this statistic because, I mean, is that number too low or is that just an awesome story? Like, where do you come down in that?
I don't know. I mean, it's low, right? 6 the entire season. It's low, but at the same time, you have to remember that, like, what he said in that interview with Sanchez is kind of like the statistic playing itself out, right? He just wants to rip the ball. He doesn't want to take any kind of easy dump offs early in the game, whatever. He wants to get in the flow of the game by ripping it down the field, taking a hit, running the ball, whatever he wants to do to get into the flow of the game. So what I would say is, like, people want to talk about things like Josh Allen's completion percentage all the time. Well, you take a look at a statistic like this and you realize, like, he's not getting those padded completion stats like a lot of these guys are with all these dump offs they're doing. He had the lowest 6 all year. You think about how many easy passes you can complete just by dumping the ball off to inflate that completion percentage. He only had 6 all year and was at 58%. So this is why things like completion percentage and some of these statistics, you can make them kind of seem whatever you want, but like something like that where it's such a stark contrast, right? The number is so extremely low, and the number of dump off passes, which in theory should be the easiest to complete. That's a case for Josh Allen in the box of completion percentage, right? If you want to make the counter argument of why he's not above 60%, look, he doesn't take these dump offs and checkdowns. Now, do I think he should try to do that a little bit more this year? Yes, I think we will. And I think he even admitted in the media day interview he did on Zoom where he said, look, I need to be above 60%. We win every time I'm above 60%. So while I don't expect him to go the other way in the extreme, and none of us should, I do expect him maybe to use his backs a little bit more in the passing game this year, but he's not going to change his style too much. I wouldn't expect a drastic change there.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this season we need to see more dump offs. I think we need to see that completion percentage go up. But he said, people are taking this quote out of context. He's like, obviously I'm mindful of it, but I'm not going to be captain checkdown. That's the comment I like. I'm going to be mindful of it, which means he's going to try, but he's also not going to be Tyrod Taylor and be so afraid to throw an interception.
This is a great comment.
He read this comment from Elliot.
So, we're talking down the road a bit here, but he said, look, he's going to make so much money with his dad from farming pistachios that he'll be able to take that Brady style discount with Team McBean and build a dynasty. Now he said they're not gonna have a crop for about 4 or so years, so he might have to the timing. I don't know. He's gonna have to bank on those pistachios coming through in 4 years because he's gonna have to sign another contract before that. So I like that.
Here's a comment from Chris, and this is the story that I tried to get off. The story on Twitter from Riots of Heaven. Go find it on the Bills Guys account. Go find the Buffalo Fanatics account. Retweet it. Get the story shared because I love it. And the sort of that farm boy mentality and where Josh Allen comes from. Sorry, this was a long way. We took a long way to get to the story I've been talking about, so I apologize. But Josh Allen talked about how he grew up on the farm. Him and his dad own a pistachio farm now. He's a farm boy. All these things. He comes from a place called Firebaugh, California, very small town in Northern California. And he was on Mark Sanchez's show.
6,000 people.
And Mark Sanchez says, "How much did it hurt that Fresno State never offered you?" And he's like, "Dude, I'm still pissed off. I'm still mad." He's like, "I'm going to be mad for my entire life." And I love that mindset. I love that fire within my quarterback. Like this small town sort of chip on their shoulder, sort of inferiority complex of a town of Buffalo.
Yep.
Now has a quarterback with that same exact mindset, because here's the story from Riots of Heaven that I loved, because there's another Northern Cali quarterback who got an offer to Fresno State right around the same time as Josh Allen. And that quarterback is David Carr's brother, former number 1 overall pick, Derek Carr, now quarterback of the Oakland Raiders. And here's the funniest part of the story, where Josh Allen was number 1 in the league in the fewest dump-offs. Derek Carr was number 1 in the league in the most dump-offs. So look at these two polar opposite quarterbacks in Josh Allen and Derek Carr. And then hear this story from Riots of Heaven. 2 Fresno area guys. He tweeted a picture. I'm going to put the picture up, and I'm going to read the tweet. Here's the picture. Look at that. That is Derek Carr and Josh Allen at a Fresno State football camp. And I'm going to read the story from Riots of Heaven here. 2 Fresno area guys. One got a full scholarship to play at Fresno State, while the other was repeatedly denied. Here is a photo of Josh Allen and Derek Carr at Fresno State camp for high schoolers. The coaches sorted Josh into a group of kids who were considered, finger quotes, non-competitive, and sorted Derek Carr into the group of, finger quotes, good players. All right, come on. Both guys are now in the National Football League. One of them's Mr. Chuck the ball down the field, not, running the ball like crazy, not dumping the ball off. And the other guy is Captain Checkdown over there in Oakland. So how crazy of a story, the great underdog story. I would love to see the mindset of Josh Allen and sort of this story come to fruition this season for him to take that next step. Because right now, I don't think Josh Allen probably doesn't have an argument that he's a better quarterback right now than Derek Carr, because Derek Carr's had some very average seasons in the National Football League, and Josh Allen's still fairly young into his career. But Josh Allen, with adding 10 touchdowns to his resume, getting up to that 35, 36, 37 range, bringing that completion percentage up 2 points, Josh Allen will easily have a claim. Josh Allen will easily have a claim to be a better quarterback than Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr as a quarterback too, but I just think that's a really funny story. And it's a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for? Because his brother played quarterback at Fresno State, so it's sort of that favorite
nepotism.
There we go. Look at that, Captain Big Words over here.
Hey, but here's the other thing too. When I heard of the thing about the Fresno State, and I wrote down and I was like taking notes as I was listening to the interview, and it was like, I got he was talking about how he got snubbed from Fresno State. He's a small town guy, and I wrote, like, isn't this not just the equivalent? Aren't the Bills not just the equivalent of that entire situation, right? Like they're like this one of the smallest markets in the NFL. They're constantly overlooked. They're constantly snubbed. We've already talked about the Madden ratings, how they're getting snubbed there. Getting snubbed from Pro Bowlers every year, getting snubbed every way you can think about it, ESPN, whatever. So yes, the comment that I have to go back to it, but someone made the comment that he's like the perfect fit for our team, right? And it's like it seems to be like a fate thing here that he ended up in the Bills. And then he talked about him being a wing guy, and it's like, come on, this guy is like a perfect fit for our team. And look, again, if he takes that next step, this could be something, the start of something really special. And the one thing I really liked about kind of how he approached this interview, and like Mark Sanchez started talking about, the Bills have this great roster around them now and all this stuff. And like teams are going to be coming through Buffalo and all this. You notice how Josh Allen kind of said, like, look, we got to, that's when he kind of went back to like the coach speak. It's like, we got to take this one day at a time. He wasn't getting ahead of himself. He knows what's ahead of him. He knows the pressure that's on him. And it was just great to hear him with that type of mindset on the interview.
And let's go back to this photograph here because, I mean, let's face it. I don't know how many years has gone by since this photograph was taken, but Derek Carr looks relatively the same, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what Derek Carr looks like today.
And Josh Allen, I mean, first of all, grew because Derek Carr's what, 6'2"?
Yeah, Derek Carr's not as tall as Josh Allen.
Josh Allen's grown a solid 5-6 inches since then, and I mean, boy, way thicker now. I mean, that guy looks like me when I was 13, or probably my brother. My brother was skinnier than me. I was kind of a chubby kid, but we're not going to talk about that.
6'3" Derek Carr. We'll give him another inch.
Yeah. So it's just a crazy story. And who is this? Elliot says #sports. Great dudes. Tweeted a side by side of Josh Allen versus John Elway's release, and they're nearly identical. Honestly, their game is kind of identical too. So I really like that.
Josh Allen today looks like he ate the Josh Allen in his picture. I mean, he is massive. I mean, the guy is massive. I mean, Pierre, like he's in the chat, right? He got fortunate to run into Josh at the airport, and Pierre's a tall dude too. I believe he's 6'4".
Pierre, I'm pretty sure Pierre is Cornelius Bennett at this point. Have we confirmed that they're not the same person?
He might be. He might be.
I'm pretty
Cornelius
sure Rico's
Bennett.
Isaiah McKenzie and Pierre is Cornelius Bennett. I don't know.
But Pierre's.
I don't know if he's gonna take that as a compliment or not, but
I mean, he will. I mean, I've never met Pierre in person, but he's a tall guy from what he's told us, and Josh Allen looks just like
he hits bombs from the driving range. From the driving range. So I want Pierre, if you're still with us, because I've seen you back and forth in and out of the comment section. Pierre, when you posted that video of you just knocking bombs at the driving range, how many people looked at you, just got completely discouraged and left? Like, how many people just saw your game,
100%,
looked over, were absolutely disgusted at themselves and just walked out because they knew they'd never compare?
Plus,
sorry, no, you got.
I was just say, plus his apparel game was on too,
yeah.
So he looked the part and he played the part.
Yeah, I'm jealous of that. So let's shift gears here now to a Q&A, and let's open up the show to you guys. And the first thing I want to talk about is, while you guys are generating some questions, some comments, some topics in the comment section, Bills Guys N. I wonder if we have the first person ever to name theirs after their handle after us. Maybe not. I don't know. Is this our first fan, Bills Guys?
Well, let's just realize that our name is not like the most original name out there. So we're probably not the first people to ever think, what are two guys talking about Bills? What we should call ourselves?
Well, first of all, there's no avatar photo. So there's legitimately a chance that this is like my mom or my dad at this point. So
Bills Guys North. Here we go.
Yeah. If you're my dad, hi dad. But if you're not, I apologize. But he says, let's rewatch every game from last season together. That's a great idea. And I got some ideas shuffling around my head that I'm going to throw at Pierre after the show is that, and we'll see what we can do with that. But here's the issue, Bills Guys. And our second ever show, we talked about Bills Embedded, and we put up a graphic of Bills Embedded. It wasn't even a video. It was just a graphic. It was just a graphic from the Buffalo Bills. And we were immediately pulled off of YouTube. So I don't think that we can live stream games on YouTube and not get in trouble for it. We got Buffalo Fanatics got their Twitter deleted for having a Taylor Swift song in the background of one of their videos. So we're not going to mess with that. Maybe we can do like a Zoom thing, maybe with some of our regulars or maybe some of our super chatters where we can get together one day and watch a game and talk about it on Zoom, because I know I have NFL Game Pass and I can stream it. But we definitely can't do it on YouTube because Buffalo Fanatics would be wiped off the face of the internet, and we have to start over from scratch, which is the last thing we want to do because that's been a pain in the butt on Twitter. So I love the idea at Bills Guys End, but
Great idea.
it's just not going to work on YouTube. We'll see if we can get something going somewhere else, though.
Maybe we can find someone out there who's really good with Madden to recreate in Madden
Play.
every play that happened.
Then
That would be
after us.
Yeah, true. All right, so let's get to some questions here. Divine Demigod 777, also a frequent follower of the show, starting off the Q&A here with, how do you feel about Diggs defending Allen on his Twitter? Someone was dissing Allen, Diggs defended Allen and basically called the hater out and told him to screw off. Do you see this as just kind of normal, or do you see this as something that we can read into, given that Diggs is new to the squad this year?
I mean, there's a couple of things. I mean, first of all, what's the guy supposed to do? Like say like, oh, he's right. But you know, we saw Stephon Gilmore came out today and said, love the Cam Newton signing. And I think it was California, our boy California Buffalo on Twitter. Somebody on Twitter was like, breaking news: player from team says the signing on his team was good. Like it's something that you have to say. But I will say this: we just got done talking about Josh Allen, how him and Stephon Diggs are like on a weekly basis playing, Fortnite and Call of Duty together. How they got together in Florida and worked out together. And I think the one thing that Stephon Diggs is going to appreciate is Kirk Cousins was very much a conservative quarterback. Kirk Cousins doesn't like to take a lot of risks. Whether, I don't think there's any debating right now. Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback than Josh Allen. It's just a fact right now. I'm not saying in the future that can't change, but they're two definitely stylistically different quarterbacks. Whereas Kirk Cousins has made a name for himself in this league, being very much conservative, not willing to take risks, sort of like a juiced up version of Tyrod Taylor, maybe a more accurate, more over the middle throwing version of Tyrod Taylor. Josh Allen is going to zip some ball into some places that Kirk Cousins isn't willing to zip some balls into. Josh Allen's going to be able to get some air under some footballs that Kirk Cousins could never get air under. Josh Allen's going to be able to make some throws to the sidelines that Kirk Cousins could never make. So while Kirk Cousins got the ball to Stephon Diggs a decent number of times, that Minnesota offense was very much Dalvin Cook centered, run game centered. Stephon Diggs is very much in a place now where Brian Daboll's going to chuck the hell out of that ball. Josh Allen's going to chuck the hell out of that ball. And Josh Allen's going to make throws to Stephon Diggs that Kirk Cousins couldn't even dream of. So, Stephon Diggs has a right to back up his quarterback because everyone in Minnesota has this sort of inferiority complex. I know the Bills Overdue you guys talked about it at length. It was a great conversation they had with, I'm blanking on his name, but a Vikings fan on Twitter who's very much involved in the Bills Mafia community because he's just a great guy. He's friends with all those people. I'm blanking on his name right now, and I do apologize to him for that. But they had a great conversation with him. And it's like just straight inferiority complex from Vikings fans. So yeah,
Vikings fans are like public enemy number one right now with us.
Of all the flavors, they choose salt, and I don't understand why. So I guess I shouldn't be saying that because that's what we're doing for our Madden right now.
And that's Elliot's new avatar, right?
Yeah. He's feeding the Vikings fans right now. He's just feeding them.
Oh my god! Comment from Ryan. Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you watching. One reason why I like where we're heading is look at and Knox's play. I think he meant to say Knox's play against the Bengals, and look at Singletary and all the players. They don't go down; they fight for every yard, and you definitely saw that a lot out of Singletary and Knox, both rookies last year. So, to me, this is just an element. This is coaching and culture through and through, right? I mean, this is something that we talked to Reed Ferguson about a little bit a couple weeks ago, right? You can tell. Sometimes when you're playing teams on the field, like if it's like a well-run tight ship organization, and you can tell that everything from top to bottom of the Bills organization seeps out onto the field. And this is a prime example of that. So I guess I would ask you this question in relation to this topic. Do you feel like it's going to take the Bills maybe a little bit more time to get juiced up as the season starts because they haven't been able to be around each other as much or around the coaches as much, or do you think they're going to be fine with that?
I think the Bills. I mean, and we've had this conversation before. I'm worried, of course. I mean, we're talking about there's probably not going to be a preseason. It's probably going to be limited padded practice, and then we're going to head into the regular season. But of all the teams that are able to overcome this, the Bills have the chance of overcoming this because they have the most continuity. They have the most returning starters. And talk about those big boys up front. Our entire starting offensive line is returning, and our offensive line coach and our offensive coordinator. So, if anything, the Buffalo Bills have how many new players do the Buffalo Bills have to install into their offense? Stephon Diggs, wide receiver 1, Gabe Davis, wide receiver 4, and Zach Moss, maybe RB2, but we're talking a shortened offseason. It could be TJ Yeldon. So there's like one guy who's going to be a major component of our offense early on, maybe two, that we have to incorporate. So as much as not getting hit and being sloppy is a thing, and it's a realistic thing to worry about, the Bills have the best ability to counteract that of any other team. Everyone's going to be sloppy. Everyone's going to be sloppy. But the Bills are probably going to be the least sloppy because of all that continuity. So that's my argument there. And before we get to Tebow 1997, Joshua Barrett, listen, why are you hating on Josh Allen MVP? I just got done talking about how much I love his story. So here's what I'm going to say, Josh. And because I've been fighting the critics for a couple of weeks now. I love Josh Allen. I did not like him when he was drafted. I threw something at my television. That's how mad I was when we drafted him. But this dude has wholeheartedly won me over the past 3 years. And I listed the 20 or so reasons why 10 minutes ago when talking about where he came from and his mindset and his interview with Mark Sanchez and the way his teammates love him, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, this dude's going into year 3. And statistically speaking, we can't say he's better than Kirk Cousins. We can't say he's better. We just can't do it yet. Mm-hmm. We need to see it on the field first. I'm confident he can be. I would, if you had to say, who do you want to be your quarterback for the next 5 years, Kirk Cousins or Josh Allen? I'm picking Josh Allen. Matt Stafford or Josh Allen. I'm taking Josh Allen. Put him up against 20, 25 of the quarterbacks in the National Football League. I'm taking Josh Allen's upside over most of the guys in the National Football League. But you can't legitimately put him with those quarterbacks until he does it, until he actually comes out this season and you see it happen on the football field.
Yep.
So I can say I'm confident he will do it, but I can't say right now that he is a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins because he doesn't have the track record that Kirk Cousins has. So it's not hate. It's just like I know how good he is, or I know how good I think he's going to be. I just can't say it yet. You know what I mean? So it's not hate. It's just sort of watching my words and being mindful of what I'm saying when it comes to Josh Allen, because he hasn't done it on the football field yet. He just hasn't in regards to some other players in this league. So Tebow 1997 says, what are you looking for in Knox? What are your expectations for him? Dave, why don't you start this one off?
Yeah, so if you guys, we talked, the reason I brought this question up initially, because it kind of ties back into the interview Josh had with Mark Sanchez. There was a little snippet in there where kind of Josh was going through sort of the receiving core, was talking up John Brown and Beasley and how they kind of changed the room last year. They came in, they were consummate professionals. And then they started talking about Dawson Knox a little bit. And Josh Allen had some really high praise for this guy. And Mark Sanchez kind of slipped in this little question about, do you think he's he should be a top 10, he's going to be a top 10 tight end. And I don't know what he means by that, probably statistically or whatever you want to rate, however you want to rate top 10, there's a lot of ways to do it. And Josh Allen said yes. So there's a lot of support in the building from coaching staff, obviously, for drafting him. Josh Allen, the quarterback, talking about how Knox just loves to be around the guys. He just likes to soak it up and learn. He's there to kind of do whatever he can. And so you like what you're hearing about Dawson Knox coming from the quarterback of the team. And I think the only thing that's going to hold Dawson Knox back this year is just the ball distribution, right? With the amount of people we have on the team. So top 10 tight end, you'd be hard pressed for me to find I could find 9 other tight ends I probably would pick over Dawson Knox right now, but he's right up there in that top 10 as far as potential guys. He's just, and the nice thing about it is we know he hasn't been playing, a ton. He came out with not a lot of experience from college, but he's not going to have the pressure on him like a George Kittle or Travis Kelce to be the number 1 or number 2 option. He's going to be that number 3 or number 4 option, and I think he can flourish in that role. So my expectations for him are to build upon the season he had last year. Honestly, I don't know what that means statistically. I don't think he's going to have a ton of yardage necessarily, but I think he could get 5, 7 touchdowns maybe as a ceiling, and I think that's reasonable to expect.
Yeah, you mentioned at the tail end of that interview with Mark Sanchez, he said that Dawson Knox is going to be a top 10 tight end by the end of the year. But that begs the question: is top 10 in terms of traits and potential, or
Right.
athletic ability, or top 10 in terms of statistics? I think it's
Right.
probably going to be the latter, or I'm sorry, the former, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of top 10 in potential. Because athletically speaking, if you look at his combine numbers, of his height, weight, build, his athletic profile, he can get his game to the Travis Kelce's of the world and some of those George Kittles of the world. He can be that if he meets his full potential athletically and his football game comes together. F the Jets, yes, I was going to get to that
Yes,
one.
we
That was a
can.
good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
But athletic, like Tommy Sweeney is never going to be George Kittle or any of those. That's just not his athletic profile. He's too limited. Jason Kroom is more of a receiver. He'll never have that blocking ability. So there are some nice young tight ends on this team, but nowhere near the potential of a Dawson Knox. And when we talked about David Njoku, and bringing David Njoku in here, like our talk was like my rationale that I would be okay with it was because it would move Dawson Knox away from the sort of limelight. How many
Mm-hmm.
times last year was maybe Dawson Knox, because he was probably he wasn't ready last year. He wasn't ready. This guy
Mm-hmm.
played quarterback in high school. He played in a very vanilla system in college, like a Madden playbook style system in college almost. It was very sort of generic, and he wasn't ready. But the Bills were throwing him out there, and he was pressing because the Bills needed playmakers, because John Brown and Cole Beasley were drowning from the fact that there were no other playmakers on that offense outside of Devin Singletary. Isaiah McKenzie every once in a while, Duke Williams every once in a while, Frank Gore every once in a while. But there wasn't that third guy who could make that big play in the receiving game. So the Bills were throwing Dawson Knox out there. Dawson Knox was pressing. So now with the addition of Stephon Diggs, with maybe a shift in the focus of the offense, even without maybe another player stepping onto the football field, Dawson Knox doesn't have to be targeted as much. Dawson Knox is not going to have the attention on him. So you mentioned it. Statistics will go down, but his effectiveness will go up because he might be able to make more out of his limited number of targets just because he's not going to be pressing as much, and there's going to be less of a focus on him, and he can finally maybe start developing properly.
Yep. And I want to get to F the Jets question here because I know he makes a lot of good comments and he asks a lot of good questions. But I think we've been a little hesitant to put his questions up just because of the name. But now he's changed his name and he's going to get some pub here. So I think this question really is a question more about the depth of the Bills' cornerbacks. Meaning, if Trey White gets hurt, is the rest of the group going to be serviceable enough to carry us through? And like I hate sometimes talking about hypotheticals with injuries because it's so unpredictable. But so why don't we talk about the depth of this secondary outside of Trey? Are you confident in that group to step to the plate if Trey's not in the lineup?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you want Trey White to be there, but at the end of the day, I did a spot with Joe Marino on Locked on Bills about a week ago. And we were talking about CB2, and he's really worried about CB2. And I said, dude, I'm not losing any sleep over CB2. Josh Norman, Levi Wallace, like Sean McDermott will make something work over there. We even have throw EJ Gaines in there. Like, Sean McDermott will find one, he'll make it work. I said, my only concern is if Trey White gets hurt. And then we, furthered our conversation on the secondary, and he told me just how great Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer are. And the fact that Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer do so much pre-snap that it gives quarterbacks headaches. We have pass rushers this season like Mario Addison and Quentin Jefferson coming in. Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds are another year more developed. If Trey White went down, I think there's enough talent on this defense to give quarterbacks enough headaches for Josh Norman and Levi Wallace to survive on the boundary. All season, that's going to come back to bite us. We're not going to be as effective. There will be broken plays. Those guys will get beat, whereas Trey White was never beat. That will happen. But we can still be a very good defense, I think, without Trey White. I'm not saying, let's let Trey White walk in free agency because we don't need him. Cornerbacks, that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if Trey White gets hurt and he's out for a couple weeks, I'm not losing sleep over it. If Trey White goes down, I'm not losing sleep over it just because I feel like the Bills have the ponies and have the quality and the quantity on that defense to mask it. Whereas if Tremaine Edmonds gets hurt, that's a gaping hole in the middle of our defense. I'm scared. I'm legitimately scared. If Ed Oliver gets hurt, despite the fact that we have bodies there, he's like the really only X factor on that D-line. I'm scared if Ed Oliver gets hurt. I'm scared if Tremaine Edmonds gets hurt. I'm scared if both of our safeties go down. Trey White so much. It's one side of the field. I feel like you can mask it. So maybe I'm wrong in my thinking here, but it would suck. But I'm not going to lose sleep over it if he goes down for a couple of weeks. Now the whole season's a different story, but a couple of weeks, not so much.
Yeah, a couple of weeks we could probably survive. So Jake, newest Buffalo Fanatics contributor, coming in with the question here. What do you think of Tommy Sweeney? Is there an opportunity for him in the 2020 season? This tight end room, I mean, we've talked about it quite a bit, right? But I mean,
because what did Pierre say? You're not losing sleep depending on the week he gets injured. If we lose Trey for the playoffs, you'll lose some. Oh no, he mentioned. But where's the other comment? These comments come in so quick, people. I appreciate it, but they come in so quick. We may have to use our McNasty out there if Trey gets hurt. Let's see if you guys remember who McNasty. I'm gonna guess Isaiah McKenzie. Is that Isaiah McKenzie?
Yeah. Best slot corner in the league. That was
biggest heart of all the slot corners.
Biggest heart. Yeah, what a great heart. But getting back to Sweeney, I mean,
where was
Sweeney was kind of like Sweeney was definitely a fan favorite last preseason, if you remember, in last camp, because you remember Knox was battling that. I think it was a hamstring injury, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, Tommy Sweeney got a chance to play a lot, with starters and second team and training camp. He made some nice plays in the preseason, so he kind of developed a little bit of a cult following. We know the Buffalo Fanatics editor-in-chief Adam Nannini has a soft spot for Tommy Sweeney, but is there an opportunity for him? Yes. I mean, there's an opportunity for him to make the team again. I don't know if there's an opportunity for him to contribute much in the passing game. He could potentially be the heir apparent to a Lee Smith, but based on the way Josh Allen was talking about Lee Smith in that Mark Sanchez interview, how he just kind of that was the first guy he mentioned. I mean, seems pretty realistic to think now that Lee Smith's going to be on the team. And so Tommy Sweeney's going to have to be the guy that kind of fills that role in the future. So opportunity for him, yes. He's going to just have to be under Lee Smith's wing for the time being.
Yeah, it's interesting because it says a lot the Bills kept so many tight ends in their roster last year. It says a lot that they weren't willing to try to hide Tommy Sweeney on the practice squad. They weren't willing to waive him because I think they know exactly what's going to happen if you waive Tommy Sweeney. He's going to get picked up by somebody because here's the thing about Tommy Sweeney. He's never going to be a starting tight end in the National Football League, but Tyler Kroft's contract is up in 1 year. Tommy Sweeney could just be your serviceable number 2 tight end for 5, 6, 7 years, or at worst, your serviceable number 3 tight end. And you can probably get more years out of him as a number 3 tight end because Lee Smith, I'm pretty sure, they wheel him under the football field every week, and he only stands when he goes out on the football field, and yet he is still I don't want to say productive because we see the penalties, but he's still an NFL player, even though his best years as an athlete have passed him by. He's practically a left tackle at this point, and he's still out there. So Tommy Sweeney can make a decade plus career out of being a number 3 tight end because he chips in with the passing game, and he's a really good blocker. And, his ceiling, I think, is going to be a Tyler Kroft type of number 2 tight end. So I think the Bills are going to keep him on the roster. It'll be interesting to see if Lee Smith bites the dust this year and Tommy Sweeney comes in as that TE3. And then next year takes Tyler Kroft's role as TE2. And then they churn the bottom half of that depth chart. It'll be interesting to see if we can keep Jason Kroom around as a prospect or whether he gets picked off by somebody else. It'll be really interesting to see how the bottom half of that tight end roster works as the offseason rolls on. And Pierre says that McNasty is Sean McDermott, but Pierre, the Eagles got in trouble a couple of years ago. I mean, this might have been a decade plus ago now. But back when Matt Nagy was just an arena football quarterback, Matt Nagy was the Philadelphia Eagle and Andy Reid's QB4. And Andy Reid cut Matt Nagy and put him on the coaching staff. And the NFL essentially is like, no, you can't do that because he hasn't retired as a player yet. And you can't just be switch. You can't add an extra roster spot by putting your putting your 4th quarterback as a coach on your coaching staff. You can't do that. So I don't think the NFL is going to let Sean McDermott, despite the fact that dude looked like a badass in New Jersey. Like he was one of those guys back in the 80s who let his belly button show. Very like Pat Tillman-esque from Sean McDermott there. But I don't see a world where the NFL is going to let Sean McDermott, especially in this day and age when they're so worried about concussions and the way that dude probably laid the lumber. I don't think the National Football League is going to let Sean McDermott on that football field.
All right, so let's take maybe one or two more here. Another good one here, I guess, from F the Jets here, coming good with the questions tonight. Prediction for Gabe Davis statistically this season. Statistically, maybe like, I don't know, 250 yards and maybe 2 touchdowns. I don't expect him to be contributing a ton. Some vertical routes at the end of halves, 2-minute drills type of situation, at least early on in the season. I just don't see him. Maybe I'm underselling the yardage a little bit there, but he makes a couple. He's going to be a low volume guy. Let's put it that way. I think he's going to be a low volume guy. So makes it one of those two big catches. I kind of think of, and I mentioned this, last week, like a Justin Hunter type that kind of comes in and maybe run some vertical routes into the end zone too. So 250 and 2 touchdowns. I'll go conservatively.
Yeah, I mean, how sort of gun shy are the Buffalo Bills with younger receivers too? I mean, look at it. I mean, Robert Foster had a big rookie season, and the Bills couldn't replace him fast enough in the lineup with veterans like John Brown and with Cole Beasley. Same can be said for Isaiah McKenzie. He sort of got buried, despite the fact that he showed flashes and towards the end of that season with Zay Jones and Robert Foster. The Bills got their asses on the bench as quickly as possible when veterans came in. So my expectation for Gabe Davis is he's not going to play a lot this year. I think it's going to be a practical redshirt year for Gabe Davis. My guess is somewhere between 5 and 15 catches, like legitimately 5 and 15 catches, 150 yards. Like I think you'll see a high yards per catch, like 15 yards per catch, because I think a lot of his action is going to come down the field. So 5 to 15 catches, 115 yards, 1-2 touchdowns, or 150 yards, 1-2 touchdowns. Like that's legitimately my expectation for Gabe Davis because Polarich says a lot of mouths to feed. Yep. Diggs, Knox, Brown, Beasley.
Your dad is predicting 555 yards. This is a good prediction. DW Kamara 165, 180. I mean, we got to be realistic here, right? I mean, at best, he's the 5th option in the passing game. At best, so Pollard, you already know. Maybe Deion Dawkins gets 165 and a touchdown this year. So we'll see about that.
All right. This seems like, and I apologize, Brian, because Brian says, "What up, boys?" Brian, you're gonna have to watch us on demand today, man. Because we're just wrapping up. So our apologies, Brian. You're gonna have to catch us on replay. But if you're willing to try something new, not that you can replace us. I mean, not that you can replace us. How could we have failed to mention this? Joe Miller responds, "What are you guys doing Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time?" Ladies and gentlemen, what a great way to end this show. If you have not yet heard the news, we are now going 5 days a week. You have the Bills guys on Mondays and Thursdays. You got the Rico Report on Fridays and Sundays. And if you are a big fan of the Overreaction podcast, if you are a big fan of the Code of Conduct podcast, well, you are going to like Wednesday nights at 8:30 right here on the Buffalo Fanatics YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Sportscaster, the Hump Day Hotline.
Yes.
With Joe Miller Wired and Jay Spence the King. So give them a chance. I know that it's going to be really hard for them to be good as – I know that, they got the voices, but we got the faces, I think, is pretty much, what I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you guys. But, give it a shot because I'll tell you what, nobody carries a show like Joe Miller Wired. I listened to his podcast this morning. He did a great job with Greg Tomset. If you're not listening to the Overreaction pod, it's straight up. It's like, we're a vidcast now, so I don't feel any qualms. I don't have any problem saying it. It's the best Bills podcast out there right now. In the offseason, Joe Miller Wired brings it every week. So give Joe a listen. Jay Spence, I know I'm talking a little bit. I'm talking a little bit much here on Dave. I'm going to give you the mic in a second, but that dude's got an ability to ask some hypothetical questions that make your brain hurt. Like his today was like, did we what was the question he posted today for his show on Wednesday? Did the Bills not give Ryan Fitzpatrick a fair shake? And then all of these things. So between those hypotheticals that Jay Spence comes up with and the way Joe is able to sort of carry a conversation and create a narrative, I'm looking forward to that Hump Day Hotline. I'll be tuning in this Wednesday.
Just quickly on Andrew's comment here. He says, "You look like you're in black and white compared to me. That's just because I guess I can tan and you can. I don't know. You're in Arizona. You should be able to tan more.
Hold up. I got the lighting fixture thing here. Let me get the button. Here, let me see what I can do. Dave
Anyway, I'm not playing Trish, but I'm gonna talk about Joe for a second.
Does that work?
Because
does this work? Do I look tanner? I just changed my lighting.
No, you don't look tanner.
A little bit?
No.
I just put the Instagram filter lighting in.
Joe's voice is the best voice I've heard on any podcast that I've ever listened to. I feel like Joe, if he's not doing this already, like he should be like recording for audiobooks, like for people. Like he should just be like the guy that reads you your audiobook when you're like walking, riding in your car. But anyway, I'm really looking forward to this show. I really like Joe. I love the Overreaction show, and I love Jay Spence the King. He was obviously a guest of ours early on in the vidcast. Here, you're not. It's not going to help, man. It's not going to help. We bid you adieu, man. We bid you adieu. It's you're going to be in black and white when you come back too. But anyway, yeah, check out Joe and Jay Spence the King Wednesday at 8:30. Their first show is this Wednesday. If you didn't listen to the big reveal tease on Twitter today, they're going right at it. They're going right at it this Wednesday, and you should definitely give them a listen. It'll be really fun. So, like Steve said, you're going to have 3 days in a row of shows. Or 5 out of 7 days you're going to have shows now, with us being on Mondays and Thursdays, Joe and Jay Spence on Wednesdays, and Rico obviously on Fridays and Sundays. So yeah, Joe doing other things is not a good thing. BF all day. Okay, so Joe, just keep recording commercials then for BF. Don't do the audiobook route.
In my defense, I'm still on this thing. It's 120 degrees outside. I can't go outside.
You think it's brisk in North Carolina, man? It's 100 degrees here too.
Ain't 120.
It's humid as shit here, man. I can't.
You have a nice little sauna over there on the East Coast. You can go. You can sweat out your liquor. You can sweat out you can stay real skinny by sweating it out. I'm over here just straight baking. Like I am baking. You could probably I go outside for 10 minutes. You could take a bite out of me.
I don't know. Sounds like you're being Mr. Excuses right now to me. I don't know.
All right. Well, next time you see me, I'm going to have makeup on.
Well, I mean, hopefully you'll have that Utah Ute shirt I bought you. Hopefully you'll arrive in the mail by the next time.
This was the last of my hair products, so hopefully it gets into the mail on Wednesday. I saved my hair product. I didn't put any product in my hair for like 4 days. I saved it for tonight's show. So, all right. Well, that's definitely probably TMI for everyone here. But all right, ladies and gentlemen, we have definitely gone over. We appreciate it. If you want to catch us on demand, I've seen a couple of people come in a little late today. We talked all about Madden ratings. We talked about Josh Allen and the underdog story that he is coming out of Fireball, California. His interview with Mark Sanchez. We talked about a whole bunch of other great topics. So if you happen to come in late, like Brian, I believe Bill Central, I do apologize. So, but catch us on demand. You can catch us on any of these networks, or you can catch us tomorrow morning on the Buffalo Fanatics Podcast Network. Until next time, Dave, go Bills.
Go Bills.